Have you ever seen this type of layout and wondered how to achieve that on your WordPress website? Well, in this video, I'll show you how to create a modern hero section
with Elementor Pro.
Hello, I'm your host Casino. I'm a digital alchemist, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a modern hero section for your WordPress website with the power of Elementor Pro. Now, for this tutorial, I've used the Astra WordPress theme. Now, you may have a different theme you're using, and it should work fine, but if you want to be in the exact same conditions, just download the free version of Astra. As mentioned in the intro, we'll be using Elementor Pro for this tutorial, and you will find an affiliate link in the description of this video. Now, to be crystal clear, I do get a commission if you purchase the license after clicking on one of my links, but one, I only recommend Elementor Pro because I absolutely love the product and use it daily. And two, commissions actually help me support this channel and create free content. Now, enough talk.
Let's dive in.
Okay, so first of all, let's take a look at what we are going to build. As you can see here on the left-hand side, the images are slowly zooming in. So this is called a Ken Burns effect. Then we have our main title, and then we have a button. Now on the right-hand side, we have two stacked sections, also with titles and buttons. And as you can see, when I move the mouse, there's a subtle movement in the background images, and I will show you how to do just that. Now, when we scroll, you can see that the navigation stays sticky here in the top right corner. And to be crystal clear, I'm not going to spend time on that today, and I have a very good reason for that. Simply that I've created full-length tutorials about how to achieve that. One of the tutorials is on how to achieve that with the WordPress Astra theme and Elementor Pro, and the other tutorial is about how to do that just with Elementor Pro. So you will find links in the description of this video. Now, if you take a look at the iPad version, the tablet version, you can see that the main section takes the full screen. And then when we scroll, you can see that the two sections that were on the right-hand side in the desktop version now are just below the main section, and they still stack on top of each other. So they take respectively 50% of the screen, just like it was actually in the desktop version. So they took 50% here and they take 50% here also. Now, if we take a look at the mobile version, same thing. The main section takes the whole screen, still with the Ken Burns effect. And then when we scroll, we have the two sections on top of each other, and they take 50% of the screen. Now, as mentioned in the intro, we're going to use Elementor Pro. Now, Elementor has a free version, and at the time of recording this video, it has 3 million plus installed. So that's just nothing short of amazing. Now, for this tutorial, we're going to use Elementor Pro. And if you know my channel, you know that I really love Elementor Pro and I use it every day. Now, you may be wondering, why should you get the Pro version when the free version is so good already? Well, there are a lot of reasons why, and I'm not going to spend time explaining everything because otherwise this video is going to take way too long. But in a nutshell, I think the theme builder alone is worth it for you to just go and get Elementor Pro. So what is the theme builder? Basically, you can customize any part of your WordPress theme. So the header and the footer, you can make your header sticky. You can customize the 404 pages, the WooCommerce pages. You can add display conditions, dynamic content, and so on. I think I'll make a really dedicated video because that's a question I get a lot. Why should I get Elementor Pro when I already enjoy the free version? So I'll make sure I'll create a video about that. Okay, so that being said, Elementor Pro is $49 a year for one site, $99 for 3 sites. And if you're an agency or you know that you're going to need it for more than 3 websites, then you might as well go for the expert plan, which is $199 per year, and you get 1,000 websites for that. So that's just amazing in terms of value. Now, as I always explain, I know that for some people that's a lot of money, and I completely understand that. Now, my advice is always the same, and it's always going to be the same, is try to make some money first with the free version of Elementor. For example, try to get better at creating websites, then create your first paid websites, and just factor in the amount for Elementor Pro within that website. So maybe you can pay for one license for one website and then for three. And I mean, the best would be to get the expert plan, because that's where you get the most value. Okay, with that out of the way, let's take a look and let's start building this hero section. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is go to pages, all pages, and we're going to create a new page and we're going to call it home. Okay, and because I'm using Astra, the Astra theme, which is free by the way, even though I'm using here the pro version, but I could have done the tutorial with the free version actually. So I'm going to disable the title and I'm going to make the header transparent. So even in the free version of the Astra WordPress theme, you get those options. So if you're using Astra, just disable the title and enable the transparent header. And if you're using another theme, well, I don't know which theme you're using. There are really literally thousands, tens of thousands of WordPress themes, but if you want the transparent header, then you should check with your theme. And if your theme doesn't allow you to do that, you might as well download Astra. It's free, so you have nothing to lose here. Okay, so once that's done, just update. And before we start editing, we are going to go to settings, permalinks, and make sure use a custom structure. So by default, it would say this post name. So just make sure you use that. We don't really need it for this website, for this tutorial, but it's just a good habit to take. So I always do it. Next, you want to go to reading, and then you want to set your home page. So the home page should be a static page and should be the page we just created, which is called home. Okay. Once again, for the rest, it's not needed for this tutorial, but it's just a good habit. For each article in the feed, show summary and discourage search engine from indexing this website. Okay, and then click Save Changes. So just make sure that once you go live, you change those options here. Okay, the next thing you want to do is go to Pages, All Pages, then hover over the home page we just created and click on Edit with Elementor. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is click on the hamburger icon here on the top left corner, then go to color picker, and we're going to add our main color. So you're free to pick any color you want, but if you want to follow along this tutorial and exactly create the same colors, then this is the color you want to use. So it's C130. Okay, next, once again, you want to click here in the top corner and go to default fonts, and we're going to use Nunito for the primary headline, still Nunito for the secondary headline. Then for the body text, we're going to use Nunito Sans, and same for the accent text. So we're going to use Nunito Sans. So I've already added it, but the first time you come here, when you add those fonts, you see the button apply. So just click on apply, and then it will be applied for everything. Now it should work right away, but sometimes I notice that there is a bug where it changes here in Elementor, but when you see it on the front end, then it doesn't change the font. So if that happens to you, just go back to the WordPress dashboard, then go to Elementor Tools. And here on the first tab, the general tab, you can see regenerate CSS. So just click on regenerate files and save changes, and you should be okay. So back in Elementor, we're just going to refresh that page so we're sure that we get the regenerated CSS. So the next thing you want to do is create a new section with 2 columns. You want the content width to be full width. You want the height to be a minimum height of 100 VH, and you want the column position to be stretch. Okay. So next, you want to click on the column here, the first column, then go to the Advanced tab, and you want to give it a margin of 0 for the top, right, bottom, and left, and the same for the padding. Okay, so once that is done, you want to drag the first column to 65% of width. And by default, automatically, the second column will be 35%. Okay, next you want to click on the widgets icon here in the top left, and we're going to drag an inner section here. Okay, so with the inner section selected, go to the advanced tab, and we want to give it a top margin, bottom margin of 0. And as you can see here, we have an intersection within a column, and within that intersection, we have 2 columns. So that's kind of getting complicated. So the best thing to do is to open the navigator. So you have the icon here in the bottom left corner. If I click, or if you're on the Mac, it's Command plus I, and I suppose on a Windows PC, it should be Control plus I. But if you don't find the shortcut, just click on the navigator icon here. Okay, and here we can really expand and see our structure. So if we look at a structure in the front end, we have this column here, and then those 2 sections on top of each other. So this is our first column. So I'm gonna call it left column, and this one is going to be right column. Okay, so within the left column, we've added an intersection, which is right here. And within that intersection, we have 2 columns. Now, a word of caution here. I'm well aware that this is not the best scenario because it adds a lot actually of unnecessary code. So this is not one of the best practices. But for the time being, it's the best solution I found to create that kind of layout that you can see here. Now, the best of the best would be to just create that with CSS and HTML, but then again, then you wouldn't have the power of Elementor. So maybe one day we get those kind of complex structures within Elementor, but for the time being, we don't get that option. So even though I'm well aware that it adds more code, well, there are other ways to optimize your website. I've created a video about how to optimize your images, which takes a lot of the bloat usually. I mean, the time it takes to load a website. Now, there are some other tools. You can use cache plugins, and there are other performance plugins. And once again, I think I'll make a video just about that. But for the moment, if you want to use Elementor, that's the option. And so with that out of the way, let's continue. So as I said, we're within our first column here. Then we have our inner section, and we don't need 2 columns here. So here there are 2 columns, but if we see here, there's only 1 needed. So I'm just going to delete the second column. Okay, so that one is deleted. Now, as you can see here, we have that image with the Ken Burns effect. We have our title and a button. Okay, so if you go here, we want to add a background image, but as you can see, the column is really, I mean, the height is really small here. So logically, I would go to Layout with my intersection selected. Then I would go to Height, Minimum Height, and I will give it a minimum height of 100 VH. But there's no such option for the intersection. You can find that option for main section, for regular section, but not for an intersection. So let me put it back to default. And the trick here is to use a little bit of CSS, but don't be scared. It's just a tiny bit. And by the way, you find the exact code that you can copy and paste within the companion blog post. And you'll find a link, of course, in the description of this video. So actually, we're not going to do it at the intersection level. We're going to do it at the column level. I mean, the column that's within our intersection. So select the column, then go to the Advanced tab, Custom CSS, and you can copy and paste the code that I just mentioned. And basically, it says selector, then height 100 VH. Now, if this was regular CSS, I've already explained, you would use a class name, then you would give that class name to the column. But because we're using Elementor Pro, we can just use the selector keyword. And basically what this does is that it just assumes that you want to add it to the current element. So this is not regular CSS. This is just some Elementor tip. Now, as I've already shown in other tutorials, I could do exactly the same by putting a class name here. Okay, so with that out of the way, as you can see now our section is 100%. Let's add a title. So we're just going to click on our widgets icon here, then add an heading here. Okay, and if we select our column, then go to the layout tab, we want to vertically align in the middle. Okay, as you can see here, it's in the middle. Now we need to style this text, but before we do that, we're going to add our image, because as you can see, the text here is white. So if I change it to white now, you won't see anything. It will be harder to style it. So once again, select the intersection and then go to the style tab, slideshow. And the reason why I added the text first is because if there's no element, you wouldn't see the slideshow anyway. So Elementor needs to have an element to show the background. Hope it makes sense. So with our intersection selected on the style tab, you can add a slideshow, and now we need to select some images. So I've already added some images with a 16:9 ratio. So we are going to select a few. So if you want to match the demo, I'm going to select that one, and that one. So those 3 images, click on create a new gallery. So the resolution is 2000 by 13 and 33 pixels, but you could use 1920 by 1080 as long as you respect the 16:9 ratio. Okay, now you can drag and drop the order of the images. So I'm just going to use it like that, then click on insert gallery. Next, I want to switch on the Ken Burns effect. Okay, so it's working fine. Now, because it takes some resources and I'm recording the screen, I'm just going to turn it off for the moment, and we'll turn it back on at the end of this tutorial. So it's less resource intensive. Okay, now with that out of the way, click on the column section here. So we're within our intersection. Actually, it's better if I do it here in the navigator. So within our intersection, click on the column, go to advanced, and we want to give it a padding of 70 pixels all around, so we're sure that the content does not touch the edges. Next, you want to select our heading text here. You want to make it an H1, so that would be our main title. Next, you want to center it, and we're going to change it to need to escape the 9 to 5 question mark. And we're going to style it, so the text color should be white. So that's in the style tab here. And we're going to add some default text shadow. Now, depending on the picture, you may want to play with this. We have a few settings here, but I found that it works good enough for this tutorial here. Okay. Make sure you update your work so that you don't lose everything. Next, we want to click on our widgets icon, and we want to add a button. Okay, so we're going to label it Discover. We want to make it medium, but actually we're going to change those settings, so don't worry about that. Next, we want to go to Style, and then we can start styling now. So text color should be white, even though it's white already, but we want to make sure we set it to white. The background color is going to be black for this one. Then the border radius should be 0. Okay, and our padding, we're going to customize it. So just click on the icon here to unlink the values, and we're going to give it a top padding of 12 by 70 on the right, 12 at the bottom, and 70 on the left. Okay, now if we click on the hover tab here, we want to change the background color to white, and the text color should be our red color that we added in the default colors. So when you hover over it, that's how it goes. Now, still on the hover tab, we want to add an animation called sync. Okay, so that it goes down when you hover over the button. Now back to the content tab. For our button, we're going to align it in the center. Okay, so let's look at our model here, and yeah, that looks exactly how it should be. We're just going to change the text size here. So click on the text, then click on typography, and we're going to give it 50 pixels. Yes. Okay, so that was for the left column. Next, let's take care of the right column. So in the right column, we're going to, so let me drag that here. So we're going to drag an intersection. Okay, and actually we need to take care of something. You can see there's some space around our intersection. So we want to make sure we select our right column. So I'll click here in the navigator and go to the advanced tab. And once again, we want to give it a 0 top right, bottom and left margin, and the same for the padding. And next you want to select our intersection within the right column. So the intersection we just added here. Go to the advanced tab and we want to give it a top and bottom margin of 0. Okay, now once again you can see here we have 2 columns, but if you look here there's only actually the 1 column here. So I'm just going to remove the second column. Okay, great, but we still have a problem here, and it's the same problem we had earlier on with the left column. And that is the fact that the height is way too small. So as you may have guessed, we're going to use a little bit of CSS. So within the right column and within the intersection, make sure you select the column, then go to the advanced tab and to the custom CSS module here. And we're going to paste almost exactly the same code, but instead of 100 VH, it's 50 VH. So it's selector, open bracket, height, colon, 50 VH, semicolon, close bracket. Once again, you find the code in the companion blog post. Now, as you can see here, it works. We have the 50% that we wanted. Actually, it's 50 VH, but think of it like 50%. Okay, so next we want to go to style, then background type. We're going to select classic, and we're going to select an image. And if I look at our demo here, it's that image here. So let me select that one. And as I mentioned earlier, nothing appears because there's no element. And Elementor wants you to add some element before it shows you the background. So I'm just going to select a widget. So click on the widget icon here, and we're going to add a heading. And now you can see our image appears. So as you can see, the text is on top here. And let's select our column. So we'll just click on the column here. But if you want to make sure, go to right column, intersection, column here in the navigator. Okay. Next, you want to go to the layout tab. And for vertical line, you want to select middle. And as you can see, now it's in the middle. And while we're in the column settings, we want to go to the advanced tab and give it a padding of 50 pixels. Okay. Next, we want to go to the style tab. And as you can see, we've added our image, but we forgot to make the background no repeats, and the size should be cover. And now, as you can see, it's way better. Next, we want to select our text. Make sure it's an H2 because we only want one H1 for SEO, and the H1 was the need to escape the 9 to 5 title here in the main section. So this one here is an H2, so that's fine. We want to center it, and we're going to change it. Let's look at the demo to spa services. Okay, spa services. Next, click on the style tab, make it white, and that looks good. Okay, so next we want to add a button. So I'm just going to hover over the main button here. I'm going to right click and copy it. And then I'm going to right click on the title and paste our button. But if you look at the demo, it's slightly different here. And actually, if I look at the buttons, they're a bit taller. So I'm just going to change that. So back to our button here, style, let's make it 15 pixels on top and 15 at the bottom. Yeah, that looks better. So I'm just going to copy that, then right click on the button and paste the style. Okay. So next I want to edit that button here because here it's transparent, slightly different from this one. Okay. So with my button selected, go to the style tab. So the background color should be completely transparent. So drag the opacity down to 0. So now there's nothing around it. And we're going to add a border type, a solid border of 1 pixels on the top right, bottom, and left. And the color should be white. Okay. And now when we hover over it, so click on the hover tab, you want to change the text color to white and the background color to black and the border color to black also. So now, yeah, that looks fine. Okay, so we're getting there, as you can see. Now we still need to add some overlay because you can see there's some kind of color here on top of the image. So the text is more readable. And then we have these subtle effects when we move the mouse. So back here, I'm going to select my column, then go to the Style tab. And here you see mouse effects. So I'm going to activate mouse track. And I want to drag it down to 0.1% so that it's very, very subtle, as you can see. So next, I need to click on the background overlay module here, just below the background. So this was background, and just below we have the background overlay. And I want to add a gradient overlay. So for the first color, I'm just going to pick any color and I'm just going to drag the opacity down. Okay, and the second color should be the red we added at the beginning of this tutorial, and the location should be set at 25. Okay, let's take a look, and yes. All right, so that seems to be working fine. Okay, so next, what we're going to do is, let me close that here. So close the left column. I'm just going to collapse the inner section. I'm just going to duplicate that inner section. And as you can see, it's working fine. So now we need to change the image. And also I want the effect to be different because now when I move the mouse, both pictures move exactly the same way. I want it to be slightly different. So I'm just going to select the column within the second intersection. So let's rename our intersection so that would be easier to manage. So that one should be the top intersection, and this one should be the bottom intersection. Okay, so with our bottom intersection, click on the column, then go to style, and we're going to change the image here. So click on choose image, and if we look at the demo, it should be this picture here. So let me select that picture. Okay. And this was special offers. Yeah. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is to change the effect here. So make sure you select the bottom intersection, go to style, actually to the column within our bottom intersection. So sorry for the confusion. So make sure you select the column, and here where it says mouse track, we're going to change the setting. So click on it, and then we're going to select a direct direction. So make sure you update that. And now if you take a look at our demo, ta-da, it looks exactly like the initial example, except for the Ken Burns effect that we'll add a little bit later in this tutorial. So now we need to take care of the tablet and mobile versions. But before we do that, as you can see here, there was a section here just so that we can scroll We don't really need it, but still I'm going to add it. It's very fast. So click on the folder icon here, and we're going to add a block, and that's the first block that you see here. So I'm just going to click on insert. So with that section selected, I'm going to make it a minimum height of 100 VH. Okay, just gonna change that to lorem ipsum quoque. There you go. And if you wanted to make those buttons click and go to the next section, what we can do is, so click on the button content. So it's going to be the pound sign and discover, for example. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other buttons. So select the button content, then pound sign discover, and the same for the last one, pound sign discover. And then select the section we just created, go to the advanced tab, and in the CSS ID, we're going to type discover without the pound sign. Okay, now click on updates. And now if I click on the button, it goes straight to the section. Just a little tiny detail. Now let's take care of the tablet version. So click in the responsive mode icon here at the bottom left corner, then click on tablets. And as you can see, this is not quite what we wanted. So let's go back and take a look at our example. We want the first section to be full screen. So back in Elementor, make sure you select the first column here. So the left column, then go to the layout tab, and that should be 100%. Okay, then click on update. As you can see, there's a kind of a visual bug, but just click on update and then refresh the page. Now, once again, go into responsive mode, tablet, and as you can see, it works fine. Well, most of the time when you see glitches like that, all you need to do is update and refresh the page you're working on. Okay, next we want to click on the title here, style, typography, and we want to make it 45 pixels. And also let's make sure that our column, so click on we're in the left column intersection, then column, go to the advanced tab, and we're going to give it a padding of 50 pixels. Doesn't quite change anything here, but the settings for the desktop was 70 pixels if I recall. So here in the tablet mode, we want to give it a bit less padding. Click on updates. Next, we want to select our right column. So still within the first section, right column, and we want to give it 100%. And that works fine. So let's take a look. And as you can see, it's working fine. Okay, now final touch would be the mobile phone. So as you can see, the title is a bit too big, but the good news is that the mobile version picked up the settings from the tablet version, so we already have the full screen for the mobile here. So click on the headline for the text, typography, and let's give it 30 pixels. Let's take a look at our example. Actually, we can give it, that's 33 pixels. Okay. So click on updates. And that seems to be looking fine. Okay, so this is the responsive simulator from Elementor, as you can see. And on the front end, that's how it works. So if I click on discover, I go straight to the next section, and that's beautiful. So looking great, and the last touch would be the Ken Burns effect. So go back into desktop mode. Okay, then select your inner section style, and we're going to enable the Ken Burns effect. So click on update, and now let's go and take a look. So it looks great with our Ken Burns effect. It really adds a little bit of motion without being too distracting. Now you can also make it much longer. So I've picked the default settings, which is 5 seconds per image, but you could pick 30 seconds, 60 seconds if you want to go slower. Now let's take a look in tablet mode. So as you can see, our first section here, and then each section on top of each other. And if we go back into responsive mode, mobile, there you go. Looking great. So that was quite some work, but you made it. Now, if you're interested in purchasing Elementor Pro, as mentioned earlier, you'll find an affiliate link in the description of this video. So I hope that this video showed you how to create a beautiful and modern hero section with that type of layout. Now, if there are other WordPress and Elementor tutorials that you'd like me to cover, please let me know in the comments. And by the way, you find the companion blog post on my website, casino.com. And of course, the direct link is in the description of this video. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please like it, give it a thumbs up as it really helps growing this channel. And if you know someone that could benefit from it, please share it now. If you're not yet a subscriber, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and smash the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. Now, if you want to brand, market, and grow your business in the digital age, then make sure you subscribe to my email newsletter so that you never miss a share of digital alchemy, as well as tips, tools, services, and case studies that can help you grow your business online. So that's it for this episode. I hope to see you around, and in the meantime, don't forget to invest
In your success.